Hello, my name is Tracy Allen, and I want to welcome you to Cooking with Some Friends. Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Some Friends. One of our favorite local restaurants, we like to go to Cheddar's, and so far we haven't really found much of anything on the menu that we don't like. But one of the things that we really like, especially with fall coming on, we like their chicken pot pie. And so a while back I found a recipe for chicken pot pie, and it was supposed to be a knockoff of theirs, and I added a few other things to make it more my own. But anyway, that's what I'm going to share with you tonight is the recipe for the chicken pot pie. And I'm cutting my recipe down because I don't need it to serve for tonight. So I'm going to cut it in half. And when you are making this pot pie, you can use a couple of things. You can, I have some small pie plates. These are Pioneer Woman pie plates, and I can make about 3 of these with half a recipe, or I can use, I have a couple of the small casseroles that are Pyrex, and I could actually make 2 of them if I use these. So you can use whichever, just so it's oven safe and it's deep enough to hold the filling. So in my pan, I am melting a couple tablespoons of butter. And to that, I'm going to add, since I'm cutting it down, I'm going to add about a pound and a half of chicken that I've cut up in small pieces. And I'm going to let this cook until the chicken is done. When the chicken is done all the way through, so when the juices run clear, I am going to go ahead and add my onion and my carrots. And you can use a half an onion if you're making a whole recipe. You can use a quarter of an onion, and it will take a couple of whole carrots if you're making the whole recipe, but I just have about 1 carrot that I've cut up pretty fine. I'm also going to add some frozen peas to it. Now these will be slightly thawed when I add it to my mixture. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a roux when this is closer to done by using flour and butter and milk and broth, chicken broth. So that'll be done in a little bit. And then I have my puff pastry sheets that I'll use as the top crust with a little bit of butter brushed on. So anyway, right now we're just waiting for our chicken to cook all the way through. We're cooking the chicken. So now that my chicken is cooked through, I can go ahead and I can add my onions and my carrots. And I want to cook these down at least until the onions are translucent. And then I'll set this off the heat and work on my roux. So it doesn't usually take very long for your onions to get tender and translucent. And I have this about a medium high so that it'll cook and absorb some of that butter and the juices from the chicken. In my saucepan, I've put 2 tablespoons, because remember, I'm cutting this in half. I put 2 tablespoons of butter in my saucepan that I'm going to make the roux in. So as soon as those onions are translucent, I'm going to move that pot over here, that saucepan, and I'll work on that and set this off the heat. And those carrots, I cut them pretty small, but as they bake, they'll also get more tender. They won't get tender enough here in the saute pan, but they will when they bake. Love the smell. As much as it's not that I don't like the flavor of onions, it's that they don't really like me. They kind of upset my stomach. And so it's really hard, because I remember I used to love to eat a good hamburger with a slice of onion on it, and if I did that now, I would be sick for days just because my stomach would be upset. Okay, so Now I'm ready to set this one off and move my other pan over. And in this one, I'm going to melt that butter down, and then I'm going to stir in my flour. And I have 2 tablespoons of flour. And if you're making the whole recipe, you'd need 1/4 cup of butter and 1/4 cup of flour. And you always, when you make a roux, you always want to cook it for just a minute after you add your flour, so you don't have that starchy flour taste to it. So I'm gonna let that cook for just a minute. You don't want to burn it, you just want to make sure that the butter is cooked. And this will be pretty thick, so. Okay. Then I'm gonna add my milk to this. And I'm gonna add my chicken broth. And it was 1/2 cup of milk and 3/4 cup of chicken broth since I cut it down. And I want to bring this up to a slight simmer, but I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. You don't have to go too crazy because we use the salted chicken broth. If you use unsalted, then you could add a little more salt. So I want to cook this till it just begins to thicken. Once the sauce thickens, I'm going to add it to my onion and chicken and carrot mixture, and I'm also going to stir in my peas. And then this is, I'll fold it gently because I don't want to mash up those peas. Then this is ready to go inside whatever containers you're going to put in your oven, and then we'll top it with our puff pastry. So we're just waiting for this to thicken. You want to be really careful not to scorch that on the bottom. You want the milk to burn, but you want to make sure it's all stirred together. Pot pie, chicken pot pie is just one of those. I remember as a kid eating is it Swanson's or Banquet or whatever, the pot pies from the freezer. And if you've ever had a homemade pot pie, those just pale in comparison. So these are so much better when you make everything yourself. But as a kid, I didn't seem to mind it. It was just one of those things that I guess I didn't know any better. Okay, we're starting to get thick. You don't want it to boil. You just want it to thicken up, and it might come to a slight simmer. Just don't let it boil. You can see it's starting to get thicker, more of a gravy consistency. And again, this is one of those that will also thicken up even more in your dish that you're going to bake in your casserole. Okay. Pull this one back over. I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. I'm going to add my gravy to the chicken. Stir that quickly before I fold in my peas. Some people even put potatoes in their pot pie. It's not necessary, but I know that some people do. My peas are going to hold up pretty good since they're slightly frozen. My oven has preheated to 350, And like I always do with pies or pot pies or anything that is in a baking dish like that, I like to put it onto a cookie sheet, so that way if it overflows into my oven, it's not on my oven floor, it's actually on the sheet. So I'm gonna fill each one of these and then put the pastry on top. Okay, I filled my little pie plates with, my mini pie plates with the filling for my chicken pot pies. And then I cut my pastry, my puff pastry, and you can be as creative as you would like to with this crust. I just like to do it like I would the edge of a pie crust. I've seen places that when you get a pot pie in their ramekin, it's just, the crust is just thrown over the top. So whatever floats your boat as far as how neat and creative you want to be. Okay. Okay, now I want to brush each one of these with a little bit of butter, and then I'm going to stick them in my oven at 350. And then they will be ready to eat. I did want to come back on really quickly and remind you, just like any pie, you need to vent your pie in some way, your pot pie, just so the steam can escape to some extent, and it helps cook from the inside as well. So don't forget to vent as well. Hello and welcome to Cooking with Some Friends. I am going to share a recipe for Monte Cristos. We love to go to Cheddar's and we like theirs, and this is similar. We even have the raspberry sauce that I've made to go with it. So I'm going to cut the recipe we're going to use in half because it's just the two of us. So if you use the whole recipe that's posted, it actually makes 4 sandwiches. But anyway, so I have 4 slices of bread and I've placed them on top of plastic wrap because these need to be made ahead of time, wrapped up tightly, put in the refrigerator, and they can be in there for an hour or they can be in there for overnight. It's just to get that to set a little bit so that when you put the batter on them and fry them, they won't fall apart. So on top of my 4 slices of bread, I'm gonna place some deli ham. So I'm gonna actually use 2 slices, and I want that to pretty much stay on my bread, not overlap too much. Okay, there's my ham layers. And I'm going to put a slice of American cheese on each one of them. And I'm also going to put a slice of Colby Jack cheese on each one. You just want to make sure when you alternate this that the cheeses won't actually be right together when you put the sandwich together. And then I am going to put 4 pieces of smoked turkey on each one. And you can add Dijon mustard to this if you want to, if you really like mustard. But I'm not going to add the mustard. Okay, so then we are ready, like that the other direction, to put those together and to seal that up really tightly. And then we'll do the same thing with these. Okay, these are ready to go in the refrigerator, and I will show you the rest of the process when they've been refrigerated. Okay, so the process of our Monte Cristos is continuing. So I am gonna make the batter that goes, that the sandwiches will be dipped in, and then they'll be deep fat fried. And so for the batter, I have 1.5, because remember I cut this in half. I have 1.5 cups of just plain pancake mix. You can use whatever variety you use. And I will tell you, if you want it a little sweeter, to add just a little bit of sugar, maybe a tablespoon of sugar, and that way it'll come out more like a funnel cake batter, a little sweeter. And to this 1.5 cups, we're going to add 1 egg. Now, we have a local, in fact, he's our neighbor, a young man who, for his FFA project, is laying hens, and so we have fresh eggs from him. And so Xander, thank you for the eggs. So I need 1 egg. And I need 3/4 cups of milk. Whoops, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. And just a couple of teaspoons of oil. So I'm going to mix this together to form a batter, and then this is what I will dip those sandwich sections in after I take them out of the refrigerator and cut them in half. That's all there is to your batter. Thanks for joining us for this session of Cooking with Some Friends. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And find us on Facebook at Cooking with Some Friends.